Okay, picture this. You've just gotten home. It's been, one of those days that kind of just leaves you feeling like you've run a marathon you didn't even sign up for. You're wiped. You kind of stumble into the kitchen, open the fridge. You're peering into the depths. Sometimes it's inspiring, sometimes not so much. And that age-old question just echoes, right? What's for dinner? For forever, that question was this sort of personal battle, a silent struggle happening in kitchens all over. But then almost overnight, I felt like the internet just chimed in. And I have this quirky, often pretty hilarious, and actually surprisingly validating answer: girl dinner.
Yeah, exactly. And that whole scenario, that's kind of what we're digging into today on the deep dive. Welcome along. We're taking what looks like a really simple viral thing, peeling back those layers and really trying to uncover its surprisingly profound implications. I mean, on the surface, girl dinner might just look like another funny food trend that popped up on TikTok. Just a bit of online fun, right? But as we're going to explore, it's actually so much more than that. We're going to look right back at its origins, unpack its incredibly broad cultural, generational context, and really get into the important conversations it's kicked off. I mean, discussions about everything from female liberation, which is huge, to some really serious, quite critical health concerns.
Right. So our mission today, for you listening, is to equip you with a really nuanced understanding of this whole thing. We want to move way beyond just the surface humor, the quick viral clips, and really explore what it actually means. Its significant, tangible implications for how we think about food, how we see gender roles, and crucially, how we approach our own well-being in this super digital interconnected age. So get ready for maybe some aha moments, because this seemingly simple trend, it has a remarkable amount to say about us, about society, and just the subtle ways we navigate everyday life. Okay, so let's really get into it. Every viral sensation, right? Every cultural thing that sweeps across our screens, it has that moment, that initial spark that just sets everything off. And girl dinner is absolutely no exception. It's birth. You can actually pinpoint it pretty precisely. May 2023. So imagine this. TikTok user Olivia Marr, she's at Livy Marr on there, posts this video. And probably, unbeknownst to her at the time, it was going to fundamentally shift how the internet saw casual dining. Her original video, it's just delightful, really simple. Yeah. She shows this board, right? It's arranged kind of artfully, but also effortlessly. And on it, there's like grapes, some bread, maybe a glass of wine, different cheeses, and those little tiny tart cornichons, the mini gherkins.
Yeah, those little guys. But what made her video really special, and what gave this whole thing its kind of magnetic charm, it wasn't just the food looking nice. It was her description. It was just wonderfully whimsical. She playfully called it something a medieval peasant might eat. And that phrase, it was kind of genius, wasn't it? It immediately set this lighthearted, super relatable tone. It suggested a meal that was simple, unpretentious, satisfying, and importantly, just uncomplicated. This wasn't about fancy cooking or, elaborate presentations. It was just honest, simple pleasure, finding joy in the easy stuff. And I think the real aha behind why girl dinner blew up is precisely that authenticity, Yeah. In a world just saturated with curated, aspirational food pics, perfect meals everywhere on social media, her simple board was like a collective sigh of relief. It validated the messy, low-effort reality of how lots of women actually eat sometimes. It turned what might have been a secret lazy meal into something you could actually be proud of.
And from that one video, that charming, perfectly timed post, a global thing, was pretty much born right away. The initial idea, this medieval peasant meal, got amplified by another user, Karmapild, who took Maher's original audio and made this iconic, repeatable soundbite. And that audio became the instant soundtrack for hundreds of thousands of other girl dinner posts all over TikTok. The stats are actually pretty staggering when you look at how fast it spread. Olivia Maher's original video got, over 1.5 million views pretty quickly? But that audio snippet from Karmapild, it exploded even more, over 20.4 million views. And it was used in something like 437,700 user videos. That's not just people watching, that's people actively making it, interpreting it, putting their own spin on it across the whole platform. It's massive participation.
It really is fascinating to think about why. Why this video, this specific, pretty unassuming concept, why did it take off like that, with such force? Because it quickly became more than just a meal, didn't it? It turned into a mood, almost a declaration, a form of validation for millions. That peasant meal idea, like you said, just resonated with this deep desire for, I guess, simplicity, authenticity. I mean, think about your own social media feed. It's often just relentless, right? Overly curated, impossibly perfect stuff, perfect meals, complex recipes, immaculate table settings. Girl dinner was just this refreshing break, like a defiant step away from all that pressure. It tapped into this collective, often unspoken thing, this experience of low-effort, impromptu eating that loads of people, especially women, were doing anyway. But maybe they felt a bit guilty about it, or like it wasn't proper. This trend just shone a light on it, validated it for everyone.
Yeah, that validation is so powerful, isn't it? It's like Girl Dinner finally gave a name, a shared language, to something so many people were already doing privately. It turned what might have felt like a slightly embarrassing meal. You know, maybe just some crackers and cheese eaten over the sink into something celebrated, a badge of honor. It was such a relatable contrast to the usual picture-perfect meals filling our feeds. And, from a practical standpoint, the power of that short, repeatable audio combined with a visual format that's super easy to copy on TikTok, that was crucial, right? It made it so easy for anyone to join in, just nod along with your own version of Girl Dinner.
So, this casual, relatable spark, born from a simple plate and a witty description, it quickly lit up into this bigger movement. It evolved way beyond just the peasant meal idea. But what does it actually look like now it's mainstream? How can something that started so specifically become so incredibly adaptable? That fluidity, that lack of a strict definition, is one of its most interesting features.
Totally, that's the beauty of it. There really is no true definition of Girl Dinner in like a strict rule book sense. Its form depends entirely on its consumer's desires, as one source put it. It just reflects what you need or crave in that moment. But even with all that flexibility, some common themes definitely emerge. At its heart, it's usually a single-serving, low-effort, and delicious meal. That seems key. It's fundamentally about self-indulgence with no strings attached, giving yourself permission to just eat what you want, how you want, no judgment. It's meant to be spontaneous, quirky, and most of all, fun. You often see it looking like a charcuterie-like Mod Podge of things, just a fun collection of whatever bits are around, or what some people have called an adult lunch kit, or like a personalized charcuterie board just for you.
And the variety you see is just endless, which really shows how adaptable it is and how it resonates with individual tastes. It covers a massive spectrum. You've got the classic charcuterie-ish spreads, obviously, like crackers, maybe some leftover pasta, a few chips, different cheeses, hard-boiled eggs, perhaps a glass of wine, slices of deli meat, bread, grapes, pickles, nuts. All that stuff is pretty common, sort of foundational.
Yeah.
But it goes way, way beyond that. We're talking simple comfort foods, too, like minimal effort. A single Haagen-Dazs ice cream bar straight from the freezer, that's a girl dinner. A quick bowl of instant ramen, yep. Or just, whatever's lurking in the leftovers container. Some people even proudly share it, like just a bag of Doritos as their girl dinner. Ultimate low-effort indulgence.
Oh yeah, and then there's the homemade stuff that's still basically no cooking. Like we saw the simple joy of a bowl of rice and pork floss, or the ultimate comfort food, Kraft mac and cheese, maybe jazzed up a bit. Loads of people describe theirs just like sliced summer sausage, string cheese, and some fruit. Simple. And honestly, if you're really leaning into that pure self-indulgence, a pint of Ben & Jerry's and a bottle of wine has also been famously called a girl dinner. It just embodies that mix of low-effort satisfaction and treating yourself. It really highlights the versatility, doesn't it? Yeah. It's just whatever you feel like in that moment.
And what's really fascinating, psychologically speaking, is why this flexibility is so appealing. Why does it hit such a nerve? Girl dinner gives you this implicit permission slip to eat outside of those traditional, often really rigid meal structures society pushes on us. It taps into this deep, common desire for convenience and just ease. In a world that feels increasingly demanding, where time is everything, it offers this liberating escape from the mental load, right? The planning, the shopping, and especially the actual cooking. It lets people eat whatever they want for dinner without picking up a single pot or pan. And for many, that feels incredibly liberating and self-indulgent. It puts personal satisfaction in your immediate mood above what society thinks a proper meal should look like. It's like the ultimate antidote to decision fatigue.
It's that perfect meal you grab when cooking feels utterly overwhelming, totally. Or just when you want to graze on different things that maybe don't traditionally go together. I mean, seriously, there was this Reddit comment that just nailed it. Someone said, "My girl dinner is whatever is convenient and fits my mood. Sometimes it's a bowl of rice and pork floss, or mac and cheese." So relatable. And another user summed up that validation thing perfectly, admitting, "I always felt bad or lazy for it, so I'm glad I'm not alone." That shared understanding, that feeling of, oh, other people do this too, that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And this spontaneous, really diverse approach to meals, it's not just some random internet thing that'll vanish tomorrow. It connects really deeply with the wider food landscape and, specifically, the unique eating habits of Gen Z, the generation that's shaping so much of our culture right now. Which brings up a big question. How exactly has social media changed the way a whole generation thinks about, finds, and ultimately picks their food? It's more than just sharing photos. It's like their culinary compass now.
You've really hit on something crucial there about Gen Z. Social media has definitely become their main guide for food. Research shows pretty clearly that over 70% of Gen Zers like finding food content on social media channels. That's a huge majority. They're actively using platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, not just passively scrolling, but to explore new cuisines, review food products, and even learn how to cook. Ah, that's a massive shift, almost revolutionary, in how food knowledge and trends spread and get consumed. The days of just relying on cookbooks or old school cooking shows, they're fading for this group.
And what's really striking and super relevant to Girl Dinner is just how dominant TikTok is in this space. Over half, 50% of Gen Zers are actively looking for food-related content on the app. That really cements it as a culinary powerhouse. Instagram's next at about 43%, YouTube around 42-43%. But when you dig a bit deeper, there's this interesting gender split that pops out. Over three-quarters, 77% of females strongly agree that they like finding food content on social media compared to 65% of males. So women seem to be engaging more, interacting more with digital food content,
Yeah.
especially on TikTok, where it's like 59% of females specifically looking for food stuff. That higher engagement definitely helps trends like Girl Dinner find their audience and take off.
Right. And this reliance on digital platforms means food trends, like Girl Dinner, can just explode with incredible speed. They reach massive audiences almost instantly. The visual nature, the short-form content on these platforms is perfect for ideas that are quick to digest, easy to share, and stick in your mind. It fundamentally shifts the power dynamic, doesn't it? Away from traditional food media who establish cookbooks, long cooking shows, famous critics, towards individual creators, influencers, and just raw peer-to-peer sharing. In this new world, authenticity, relatability, that sense of shared experience, that often matters more than polished production or traditional authority. And Girl Dinner is such a prime example of a trend that was absolutely tailor-made for that environment. It just blossomed where quick, relatable content rules.
And this whole digital native thing says a lot about Gen Z's adventurous side when it comes to food. The data shows that a huge 84% have tried at least one food trend in the last year. They're not afraid to experiment. Popular things they've tried include berry alternatives, about 38% tried those, and women even more so, like 44%. There's also big interest in functional foods and drinks, stuff with added health benefits like probiotics or adaptogens. About 1 in 3 Gen Zers are trying those. And the convenience of meal kits or delivery services. About 23% have adopted those. This willingness to try new things makes them super receptive to new food ideas, no matter how simple or unconventional. It creates this fertile ground for something like Girl Dinner to just flourish.
And it's not just about discovering and experimenting. Gen Z also holds really strong values about their food choices, especially around health and wellness. What's fascinating is how these conscious choices aren't just shaping what they eat, but this whole philosophy around food. It's not just fuel, it's about overall well-being.
Exactly. Gen Z is really noticeably focused on making conscious food choices that actively support their personal health and wellness, maybe more so than previous generations. A big chunk, 65%, agree that their generation has greater concern about the healthfulness and nutrition of food choices than other generations. And this isn't just a passing interest. It shows up in real ways. Like, there's a strong appeal for functional foods, things with added benefits like probiotics for gut health, adaptogens for stress, high-protein snacks for energy. A full 1/3 of the group is actively trying these trends. They're looking for food that contributes to their overall wellness, whether that's gut health, mental clarity, or just sustained energy.
And how they define healthy is interesting too. It's not really about the old restrictive diets, counting every calorie, cutting out whole food groups. It leans much more towards naturalness and core nutrients. For them, healthy often means all natural, 26%, fresh, also 26%, and being a good source of protein, 25%. It suggests a more holistic view, maybe less punitive than the diet cultures that influenced older generations. And what's really striking, I think, is that over 3 in 4 of Gen Z believe that the food and beverages they consume has an impact on their overall mental, emotional well-being, with women specifically believing it has a significant impact. And this leads to avoiding less healthy stuff too, like 3 in 5 agree they're eating less fast food, they're connecting food to how they feel, mentally as well as physically.
So that raises a good question. With this generation being so focused on holistic wellness, how does something like Girl Dinner fit in? Does it fit? Well, actually, in its varied, flexible forms, it absolutely can. It can fit right into that conscious framework. Think about it. It could be a carefully put together snack plate with nutritious things, veggies, lean protein, whole grains, or it could be a single indulgent treat, but enjoyed mindfully. Girl Dinner reflects that flexible, personal approach to wellness. It signals a move away from rigid diet culture rules towards more intuitive eating. Listening to your body, prioritizing what feels right and nourishing in that moment rather than following some external, often arbitrary rules.
And we can't forget their adventurous side. This isn't a generation happy with the same old meals. Nearly 3 out of 4 Gen Zers are actively looking for meals with unique flavors or different cuisines. It shows a generation that genuinely loves trying new types of cuisines and foods, exploring global flavors, new combinations, which for food brands is a huge, unique opportunity for product innovation. They need to meet that demand for exciting, diverse options. They're hungry for new things, both online and on their plates.
Okay, so while health, wellness, culinary adventure, those are all increasingly important, we also have to remember the most fundamental drivers for Gen Z's food choices, just like for any generation really, are still pretty basic, pretty practical. And it's interesting how these core motivators keep shaping their daily eating habits no matter what new trends pop up. It's just the reality of everyday life.
It's exactly. Despite all the cool trends and values we talked about, the undeniable truth is that taste and cost are still the absolute biggest motivators in Gen Z's food choices. Period. How good it tastes and how much it costs, those are paramount. And financial reality is a huge factor. Half of respondents agreed that the cost of food is a top pressing issue that the industry needs to address. End quote. For a generation often dealing with economic uncertainty, higher living costs, every penny counts. And the food budget is often where they feel that pinch first.
And tied right into cost is that powerful, enduring pursuit of convenience. This generation, maybe more than any before, really wants low-effort, high-reward meals. People overwhelmingly prioritize convenience. They favor easy-to-make meals that minimize time and effort, including the whole hassle of planning recipes and, crucially, the cleanup afterwards. Nobody likes cleanup. This drive for efficiency isn't just about economic pressure from rising food costs, though that's part of it. There was also a big post-pandemic shift. After spending more time cooking at home during lockdowns, a lot of people just got tired of complex recipes. They naturally gravitated towards fast and convenient cooking solutions that didn't demand tons of time or energy.
And this is exactly where Girl Dinner just slots in perfectly. It aligns totally with those fundamental needs. It's often super affordable. You're using pantry staples, simple ingredients. It requires minimal cooking, if any, often zero complicated prep. And it's all about personal taste and maximum convenience. So it's just a natural fit for this generation's practical realities, their busy lifestyles. It's not just a fleeting fad. It really reflects these deeper, ongoing consumer desires for efficiency, value, ease in their daily lives. One source actually called out convenience-driven culinary wellness and affordable wellness in everyday life as these big underlying trends that Girl Dinner perfectly captures. When someone on Reddit says, I don't want to have to wash a pot or a pan or chop anything, you really see how Girl Dinner delivers on that core desire for effortless eating.
And kind of underpinning all of this for Gen Z is this really profound and growing focus on the planet, on ethical consumption. It's not just
Wow.
about personal health anymore. It connects their plate to the bigger picture, the global ecosystem. It's a truly holistic view of food.
Absolutely. Sustainability is no longer just a buzzword. It's a core, driving value for Gen Z when they're thinking about food purchases. It really matters to them. The data is clear. Over 70% of Gen Z values sustainability in their food choices. That shows a deep, genuine concern about the environmental impact of what they eat, from farm to fork to waste. And it's not just talk either. It directly influences what they buy.
Yeah, that concern translates right into action, into purchasing power, which sends a really strong message to the food industry, by the way. Nearly 2 out of 3 Gen Zers, 61.3%, are more likely to pay more for a product that is sustainable or ethically sourced. That's a huge driver for brands to change their ways. And their key sustainability concerns. They're pretty broad. First, there's the growing interest in plant-based diets. About 13.7% of Gen Zers are actively following vegetarian, vegan, or flexitarian diets, often driven by health reasons or environmental concerns. They're looking for alternatives to meat and dairy that are both nutritious and sustainable. Second, reducing food waste is massive, a significant 1 in 4 at 24.8%. Gen Zers see it as a pressing issue. They actively tend to support companies that use sustainable packaging or tackle food waste issues. They vote with their wallets. And third, ethical sourcing is really key. They want transparency in how their food is sourced. Is it fair trade coffee, organic produce, or cruelty-free meat? They want to know the story behind their food.
Now, while Girl Dinner itself isn't explicitly, marketed as a sustainability trend, its whole vibe can indirectly help with less food waste, more efficient eating. That emphasis on using what you've already got, throwing together random items from the fridge and pantry, avoiding elaborate cooking that might need lots of specific, maybe perishable ingredients that can naturally mean less food gets wasted. That spirit of not being wasteful and eating easy meals, like someone said on Reddit, it aligns perfectly with using resources efficiently. It also kind of suggests a preference for simpler meals, maybe less resource-intensive than big traditional multi-course dinners that might have a larger carbon footprint. It's resourceful without even trying to be.
So, with this really dynamic, constantly changing food landscape shaped by digital trends, wellness goals, money worries, ethical concerns, it's maybe not surprising that a trend as big as girl dinner sparks such a wide range of opinions. It leads to this really fascinating, sometimes quite intense debate. And what's really intriguing is how one seemingly simple idea can carry so much complex cultural weight and provoke such different readings.
Okay, let's dig into that argument for liberation, for feminist empowerment. It's a really powerful way some people see girl dinner like a quiet act of rebellion. Emily Contois, she's an associate professor of media studies and wrote a book called Diners, Dudes, and Diets. She offers this really compelling insight. She argues that women historically, culturally, are often under immense pressure to eat in a restrained way, right? To make sure meals are nutritionally balanced, to always be thinking about thinness. This societal pressure, she says, dictates not just what women eat, but how they eat. So in that context, girl dinner can be seen as an act of feminist empowerment. It lets women reject those restrictive norms, reclaim some control over their own bodies, their own plates.
And that perspective really clicks with what TikTok users themselves are saying, quite loudly, actually. They see girl dinner as directly challenging gender norms that are just baked into society. Traditionally, women are expected to cook, clean, and care for others, and that includes making these complicated, perfectly balanced meals for the family, especially husbands. But this trend, it allows women to just be lazy, quote unquote, take a break from the kitchen to eat whatever they want for dinner without picking up a single pot or pan. And that freedom, for many, feels incredibly liberating and self-indulgent. It's a direct rejection of that performative labor often expected of them. It's about claiming back that personal space and time.
There's another expert, Mary Louise Adams, a sociologist, who expands on this. She connects it to other girl trends, like girl math, and suggests that maybe girl dinner is also about resisting a bigger cultural belittling of women's consumption habits. She says it's like women thumbing their noses at people who try to devalue them, asserting their own choices, their own preferences. So this view frames girl dinner not just as a food fad, but as this quiet but powerful rebellion against those deep-seated gender expectations in the home, and just in how we consume food generally. It suggests a shift towards more intuitive eating, body autonomy, valuing comfort and spontaneity over performing roles or strict diet culture. It's about exploring less serious, less depressing modes that gender expression can take, injecting some humor and self-acceptance into it all.
Yeah, and a Reddit user just summed it up brilliantly, I thought. They said, I think it's sort of disrupting the notion that women should have these well-plated, healthy, home-cooked meals worthy of the cover of Better Homes and Gardens, or were failures as wives and mothers or whatever. And then they added, so simply, it shows we're actually human, not dainty, performative creatures.
That's such a powerful statement, isn't it?
Yeah.
About identity, shedding the weight of impossible expectations, all wrapped up in just eating snacks for dinner. It's about being authentically yourself.
But while that liberating view is really compelling and it resonates with so many people, the trend has also, quite rightly, raised some serious red flags, especially around health and body image, which brings up that tricky question. How do we balance the empowering idea of liberation with the very real, sometimes insidious dangers of online diet culture, which often preys on vulnerability? It's a real tightrope walk. It really is. This is where the conversation definitely takes a much more serious, more critical turn. Because while the basic idea can be totally innocent, girl dinner has been accused of promoting the idea that women don't eat much, and more disturbingly, it can sadly encourage disordered eating. We read this incredibly powerful, really stark personal story in the Slate that highlighted this exact danger. The author talked about developing a severe eating disorder when they were just 13, and it was directly fueled by social media content that promoted unhealthy eating habits and shared these unrealistic body goal images of stick-thin women. They described this terrifying spiral: skipping most meals, eating less than 800 calories a day, chugging water to ignore hunger, chewing gum constantly, all while tragically celebrating bones poking out under their skin. This isn't just about being thin, it's about a dangerous obsession that online culture can absolutely fuel.
And it's crucial to note that some girl dinners, specifically shown online, feature alarmingly sparse portions, like really measly snacks, like maybe just a can of Coke, a single bowl of popcorn, or merely a few pickles. That's it. And those specific videos become deeply problematic if people promote and applaud them because their visual impact can subtly but powerfully encourage viewers to eat less. The concern is especially sharp for younger viewers, middle school, high school age. They're already navigating complex body image stuff, and tragically, they're already at high risk for developing eating disorders. These impressionable kids may take it as inspiration for the development of various eating disorders like anorexia. They might internalize the idea that eating barely anything is aspirational or somehow normal.
And what's really concerning is how the visual nature of social media, combined with the often unrealistic ideal body image that some creators project, how that can create this dangerous feedback loop. It just feeds itself. Impressionably young viewers, maybe desperate to fit in or achieve a certain look, might unknowingly copy these unhealthy eating habits. They start equating sparse eating or weird, nutritionally poor food combinations with a desirable body type or cool lifestyle. They completely overlook their actual nutritional needs in pursuit of perceived thinness or just fitting in. The real danger of girl dinner lies exactly where people start to mimic their eating habits and compare their meals to theirs, often without understanding the context or the potential harm. That's where the fun stops and the real risks start.
Yeah, and this is why registered dietitians, health professionals, they issued this crucial, really heartfelt warning. As one put it, while it's totally okay to eat a bunch of snacks for dinner once in a while, it's not healthy to prepare girl dinner every night. Look, if using girl dinner as an excuse to undereat or skip proper meals, talk to a doctor or dietitian. And this isn't about shaming anyone, it's just genuine concern for well-being. We saw tons of comments from Reddit users who identified as eating disorder survivors, and they were expressing real alarm at seeing these measly snacks as meals being glorified. Their lived experience is just a stark reminder of the very real consequences. It's a serious concern that goes way beyond just lighthearted internet fun.
And the serious concern about body image, about eating habits, it often brings up another controversial angle of the girl dinner trend, just the gendering of food itself. What's fascinating is how quickly the internet, needing to categorize everything and create counter-stories, spawned the idea of boy dinner. It really highlights this deeper societal habit of imposing gender roles onto even the most mundane things in our lives, like what we eat.
Right, and that counter-story, boy dinner, or sometimes man dinner, it serves as this really stark, almost cartoonish contrast to girl dinner. While girl dinner tends to show small portions of a variety of items, collections of snacks and bits, man dinners are stereotypically shown as gargantuan portions of a single item. We're talking about these really striking visuals of steaks skewered on forks, leftover pizzas found under the couch, huge slabs of meat. It's a very different vibe, reinforcing these traditional, often outdated ideas about masculine eating.
And the immediate reaction from lots of people, both in articles and on Reddit, was just to question why we even need to gender these meals at all. You see phrases like "are pointlessly gendered vibes" popping up everywhere, showing that frustration with unnecessary labels. Many people rightly pointed out it's just snacking, everyone does it, or men ate those things just as fine, challenging that idea that only women graze or like small plates. The core argument is that this trend, by creating this gender split, inadvertently perpetuates the stereotype that girls don't or shouldn't eat much. Like, these small meals are girl dinners, leave the steaks to the men, apparently. That false division, even if it wasn't intended, can reinforce harmful societal expectations. It might subtly push women towards restriction and men towards this often unhealthy emphasis on excessive or manly consumption, like huge meat portions. This trend doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? It happens within a world where oppressive gendered structures continue to proliferate, and they influence how we see and present even our daily meals.
And when brands try to jump on the girl dinner bandwagon, eager to cash in on the viral moment, they often totally miss the point, sometimes spectacularly. Popeyes, for example, launched a girl dinner menu option that was literally just a collection of sides and no chicken. That was widely seen as sexist and disrespectful by a lot of people, or at the very least, a complete misunderstanding of what girl dinner is even about. The whole point is low effort, spontaneous grazing your cabinets and fridge for whatever you want, not some pre-packaged gender stereotype box of sides. It just shows that slapping a trendy name on something doesn't mean you get the cultural vibe behind it. That misstep really highlighted how ingrained these gendered ideas about eating can be.
So this whole gendering debate ultimately brings us to maybe a more universal, less controversial way of understanding girl dinner. Its simple, enduring, cross-cultural appeal. What's really fascinating here is how this seemingly new internet term has just given a playful name to something people have been doing for generations, centuries even, across totally different cultures. It's not really a new invention, it's just a new label for a very old, very human habit.
Exactly. For tons of people, girl dinner isn't some deep sociological statement, nor is it some dangerous health trend. It's simply a fun, silly way to get involved with social media that offers a welcome bit of lightheartedness in often serious times. Many people readily admit it's not a new concept at all. They point out that people have been doing this for decades, particularly single women or busy parents or just anyone tired. It's been called adult Lunchables for ages, right?
Yeah.
Or pick and tuck nibbles for tea in the UK, a mix-up, a cupboard dinner, even a peasant breakfast. The trend in this really relatable way is just renaming an old, comfortable friend, giving it its moment in the digital sun.
And it has these deep, rich cultural parallels all around the world that came way before TikTok, which really underlines how universal it is. Like, think about Germany's traditional Abendbrot, literally means evening bread. It's not usually a hot-cooked meal. It's typically dinner of open-faced sandwiches with cheese or cold cuts or cream cheese or whatever. Maybe some cut-up veggies or pickles on the side, plus just whatever is in the fridge. It's assembled, not cooked. Then you've got France's informal apéro, short for apéritif, that lovely tradition of evening drinks and snacks, sometimes instead of a full meal. Spain, obviously, has its famous tapas, small plates shared among friends, a kind of communal girl dinner. In the Middle East, there's mez, an array of small dishes served as appetizers, often becoming the whole meal. Even in Palestine, there's moune, or pantry stock spreads of pickles, cheeses, labneh, za'atar, olive oil bread, sometimes jerky or honey. These global examples just show that the core idea of girl dinner, grazing on simple assembled stuff, is a deeply human way of eating, adapted everywhere to local tastes.
And for many, the trend just offers this profound sense of validation that goes beyond fleeting internet fame. Users talked about feeling truly seen, less bad or lazy for how they sometimes eat, and just deeply comforted knowing I'm not alone in eating this way. It acknowledges that super common experience of being too tired to put in the effort to cook a whole meal, or just not wanting to bother with fancy cooking for one person. It's often described as low effort and one of the healthiest lazy options if you choose nutritious, balanced options with enough food. It's a practical solution for a modern problem.
So this perspective really argues that girl dinner is less about some brand new eating habit popping up and more about giving a catchy name in a shared online space to a really common, practical, very human way of having meals. The trend part isn't the eating itself, but its relatability, the shared validation it provides. It clearly shows that simple, flexible, convenient meals are universally valued, especially when you're low on energy, short on time, or eating alone in formal cooking just feels like too much. It can even be, as one person put it, a genuinely intelligent healing tactic for people with GI issues who do better with smaller, frequent meals or just prefer varied textures and flavors that a single plate dinner doesn't offer. It's about meeting your body where it's at.
And the examples from Reddit users are just so wonderfully down to earth, right? They give you a real glimpse into the diverse reality of girl dinner. People shared their personal go-tos, a simple popcorn and an orange, a satisfying hummus, veggies, and cracker plate, or a surprisingly comforting shin ramune with a few eggs and a slice of American cheese, that ultimate savory treat. Others mention the classic sliced summer sausage, string cheese, and fruit that may be surprisingly good, Fritos with chili. A more sophisticated baguette, butter, cherry tomatoes, boquerones, of those yummy pickled anchovies, or quick refried beans, cheese, and whatever toppings I have on hand, microwaved with some chips. It truly is just about personal comfort, convenience, and the joy of spontaneous eating, no judgment.
Okay, so with all these different interpretations, the surprising plus points, and also the very real worries that girl dinner has brought up, the critical question is still, how can you, listening, embrace this idea in a way that genuinely supports your health and well-being without falling into those potential traps? And what's fascinating is that experts, far from just dismissing it as a silly fad, actually agree this can be a healthy, sustainable approach if you do it right with mindful planning.
That's right. We looked at advice from Alessandra Stasnopoulos, really insightful registered dietitian, and she says absolutely clearly that girl dinner can absolutely be part of a healthy eating pattern. And maybe surprisingly, she says it can actually be good for you with some mindful planning.
Hmm.
The crucial key she emphasizes is thinking in terms of food groups rather than rigid meal structures. That's a fundamental shift in thinking, isn't it? Moving away from the conventional idea of what a proper dinner has to look like and embracing something more flexible, more intuitive.
She lays out 4 essential parts for building a genuinely healthy and balanced girl dinner, emphasizing variety and making sure it's nutritionally complete. It's a simple but really powerful blueprint for mindful grazing. First, you want to aim for a carbohydrate. Bonus points if it has fiber, right? For that sustained energy boost your body needs. Think whole grain crackers, fruit, maybe a bit of leftover pasta. Then add a protein. Super crucial, not just for muscle repair, but for keeping you feeling full, satisfied, preventing those hunger pangs later. Could be a hard-boiled egg, cheese, a handful of nuts. Next, don't skip a healthy fat. Vital for absorbing certain vitamins, adding flavor and that satisfying feeling. Avocado slices, olive oil drizzle, pistachios, great examples. And finally, always try to include a produce item, fresh veggies, fruit, packed with fiber, vitamins, minerals, rounds it all out, adds color, crunch, vital nutrients. This guidance really empowers you to adapt the girl dinner idea to your own nutritional needs, rather than just blindly copying what you see online, which might not be complete or healthy.
Yeah, this dietitian-approved framework promotes a really mindful way of eating. It allows for huge flexibility and ease, but without sacrificing those essential nutrients. The main goal is to fill your plate with all the things to nourish your body, not to restrict or count calories obsessively. It shifts the focus towards the benefits, right? Like time savings and trying new things, rather than focusing on restrictive eating or feeling deprived. This framework allows for endless creative, personal combinations that are both satisfying and sound nutritionally. It proves that convenience and spontaneity don't have to mean unhealthy. It's about building a plate that works for you.
Okay, so now that we have this great blueprint, let's dive into some specific dietitian-approved ideas. Ingredients to spark your creativity show just how versatile and delicious a healthy girl dinner can actually be. These are practical, actionable things you could try tonight.
Okay, for those crucial protein powerhouses, the things that'll make your girl dinner actually filling and keep you satisfied, you can choose from super simple, easy options. Think a cheese stick, quick grab-and-go protein. Savory rotisserie chicken pieces, minimal prep needed there. Convenient hard-boiled eggs. Shelf-stable stuff like canned tuna or salmon or even tinned fish for those omega-3s. Or nutrient-packed edamame. These are all quick, easy protein sources, no real cooking required.
And don't underestimate those healthy fats, so vital, not just for absorbing vitamins, but also for satisfaction and taste, making your meal feel complete. The dietitian recommends things like creamy guacamole, crunchy nuts like pistachios, flavorful olive oil-based dips, or smooth avocado slices. These add that wonderful richness, ensure you feel properly satisfied, and maybe stop you reaching for less healthy stuff later on.
And for fiber-rich carbs and vibrant produce. Both absolutely essential for energy, digestion, vitamins, minerals. Think versatile stuff, like whole grain crackers or pita chips for crunch, creamy hummus for dipping, a variety of fresh fruit, oranges, berries, grapes, bright cherry tomatoes for a flavor burst, crunchy kale chips, even naturally sweet dried fruit like cranberries. These are all fantastic building blocks for a nutritious, colorful, satisfying plate.
The dietitian even gave some concrete, inspiring sample combinations to get you started. Show how easily these things come together. Imagine building a Mediterranean girl dinner. Feels light but satisfying, right? Combine a cheese stick, bright orange slices, crisp kale chips, tangy pickled veggies, maybe a few dark chocolate pieces, and savory olive tapenade with whole grain crackers. Or for something a bit more robust, a protein-packed girl dinner. Maybe tender rotisserie chicken, crunchy whole wheat pita chips, creamy hummus, juicy cherry tomatoes, a handful of pistachios, and a sprinkle of tart red cranberries. These are meals that nourish you without all the fuss.
And the great thing is, this whole idea extends beyond just eating at home. The girl dinner philosophy can totally inspire your choices when you're out with friends, too. Think about applying that convenience-driven, build-your-own-adventure mindset to restaurant menus. Instead of a heavy traditional meal, maybe you opt for a balanced salmon-fried rice, a customizable poke bowl loaded with fresh stuff, a hearty lentil bolognese, a vibrant bibimbap, a flexible plate of tacos, a flavorful falafel and hummus plate, a satisfying shawarma or gyro wrap, a nourishing bean and/or vegetable-based curry with a grain, or even just a big order of guacamole with whole grain crackers. These specific examples give you practical ways to adopt the girl dinner idea while keeping it nutritionally sound and suited to your taste, wherever you are. It means you can dine with a friend, grab and go, or grocery shop on the weekend and have everything on hand in your fridge to reach for in a pinch. Really embodying that convenience-driven wellness.
Okay, but with so many food trends constantly swirling around online, often boosted by influencers and algorithms, it raises a really important question for you listening. How do you sort through all that noise? How do you make sure you're getting reliable advice that actually supports your health, rather than leading you down a path of misinformation or even harm?
This is absolutely critical in the digital age. Anyone can seem like an expert online. You need tools to critically evaluate the nutrition advice you see on social media and elsewhere. First and foremost, when it comes to health, always trust the experts. Always seek nutrition advice from registered dietitians and health guidance from doctors. These professionals have rigorous training, qualifications, licenses. They provide evidence-based advice, unlike many self-proclaimed online gurus. Their expertise is your safety net.
Secondly, always use reliable sources. Stick to reputable websites from established authorities grounded in science. We're talking organizations like the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, the biggest group of nutrition pros, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, ensure safety. The United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, gives dietary guidelines. The National Institutes of Health, NIH, leading medical research, and established medical institutions like Baylor Scott and White Health. These are your go-tos for accurate info, not fleeting trends.
Thirdly, and this is a big one, always apply the sustainability test to any diet approach. Ask yourself, is this eating plan or philosophy actually sustainable for my life long term? If it seems too restrictive or complicated to maintain long term, it probably is. If you can't stick to it, resist it. Crash diets, extreme eating patterns, they rarely last. They often lead to that cycle of restriction and rebound. This test promotes long-term healthy habits over temporary fixes or quick, often unhealthy weight loss schemes.
And finally, always watch for red flags. Be really skeptical, maybe even alarmed, by any advice that suggests eliminating entire food groups without a specific medical reason, or advice that aggressively pushes specific products and supplements without medical oversight. Those are common signs of unreliable or even harmful info, often driven by marketing, not health. This whole section is crucial for empowering you with the critical thinking tools you need to navigate all that overwhelming online info. It reinforces that real health is about sustainable habits, personalized nutrition, listening deeply to your own body's signals, not blindly following viral trends or extreme restrictions. It's about finding the right balance between foods that nourish your body and foods that bring you joy. Because honestly, both are essential for holistic well-being.
So wow, we've gone on quite the journey with Girl Dinner, haven't we? It's pretty clear now it's way more than just a quirky TikTok trend or some fleeting internet joke. It's a really vivid, complex reflection of deeper shifts in how we behave as consumers towards convenience, holistic wellness, affordability, and this powerful embrace of self-care, especially within Gen Z.
Yeah, it sparked these important, often passionate, really multifaceted conversations about traditional gender roles in the kitchen, about the very real dangers of online diet culture, and also about that universal, enduring appeal of simple, flexible meals that just cater directly to what individuals need and want in the moment. This whole thing shows how a seemingly small cultural thing, like a simple plate of snacks, can actually shed light on much bigger societal shifts and unspoken needs.
And as we've explored through this whole deep dive, Girl Dinner isn't inherently good or bad. It's not problematic or perfect. It holds so much nuance. It can be a vibrant symbol of female liberation. It can be a red flag alerting us to potential disordered eating. Or it can simply be a fun, relatable, deeply practical way to eat when you're tired, short on time, or just craving variety. The key, as we've really tried to emphasize, lies squarely in your mindful approach, making sure it aligns with your personal health, your well-being. The best eating pattern, as our dietitian expertly said, is ultimately one that's both healthy and sustainable for your lifestyle, whatever that looks like for you.
So as you go forth from this deep dive, maybe thinking about your next meal, whether it happens to be a girl dinner you create or something else entirely. What does it truly mean for you to listen to your body? To celebrate your personal preferences, the pure joy of culinary discovery, and to find genuine nourishment in your food choices, completely independent of algorithms, fleeting social media trends, societal pressures, or even what a traditional meal is supposed to look like. What new food adventures will you embark on, thoughtfully and joyfully, guided purely by your own needs and desires?